Call the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting to order this evening. Can we start with a roll call?
Mary Seminara.
James Meyer.
Aziz Hassan.
Norma Drummond.
Tara Franco.
Thank you. Can I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we do have a couple of changes to our agenda this evening. There is going to be no action on items number 3, 6, or 11. We do have a set of minutes to approve with a couple slight amendments, nothing significant. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 22nd as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so our two upcoming meetings are going to be Tuesday, March 26th, and Tuesday, April 23rd. It's still only February, so the snow is known to happen in March. In the event of snow, if Town Hall is closed, then there will be no zoning board meeting that evening, and the meeting is not rescheduled. Anything that would have been on the meeting for the March would just get moved to the April agenda. So if you are scheduled for a public hearing for March, and in the event of snow, it gets canceled, we just ask that you update your sign to have it reflect the April 23rd meeting date. So, all right, with that said, with the first part of our agenda is public hearings. Those are applications that this board has had an opportunity to review already. So now we're looking for neighbor input on the appeals before we make a decision. The second part of the meeting is reviews, which is generally the first time that we've seen an application, although there are a couple in here that we have seen before, where we needed some additional information. So anything that's here for a review is not subject to public comment at this time, but will be noticed to the neighbors for public comment in the future at the appropriate time. So with that being said, item number 1 is an adjourned public hearing, Appeal 3882, Klaus Garage, Inc. Dave Lawrence, owner of Klaus Garage, Inc., 2619 Route 52, Hopewell Junction, is requesting an expansion of a non-conforming use and interpretation of automobile service facility and used car sales, as well as a variance to the 100-foot buffer requirement on Route 52 in order to continue the outside display of cars pursuant to sections 194-3, 194-16, 194-86, 194-116, and Note 11 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to reconvene the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, we did get this afternoon an email from the applicant's engineer requesting, stating essentially that there's no new information and requesting an adjournment to next month. So is there any comments or questions or anything from board members?
No, not at this time.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard related to this matter, understanding that there's no new information and the applicant has requested an adjournment to next month? So seeing nothing, do I have a motion to adjourn to next month?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, item number 2 is a public hearing, 3819 Broderson, Gary Broderson, 65 Ritter Road, Stormville, requesting a 2-year extension of his special permit, which allows a music studio in his home pursuant to section 194-90 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good evening, Mr. Broderson. So we did have an opportunity to look at your application last month. The building department did go and undertake a review of the property again, just to make sure all was in compliance. Nobody's received any complaints in the last 2 years. Your studio continues to operate. You know, you're offering your music lessons on a very limited, essentially one-on-one, although you do have a couple small groups. But you have a schedule that you've reviewed with this board previously. This is the 5th time that we're renewing the permit. So we do have the opportunity to revisit it, just in case anything does come up, but essentially you've been operating in compliance with what was expected for the last 2 years. So is there anything else you want to add to? No? Any comments or questions from board members?
I'm good.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request from Gary Broderson at 65 Ritter Road, Stormville, for his 2-year extension of his special permit to allow the music studio in his home? Seeing nothing, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And,
This is appeal number 3819 from Gary Broderson for an extension of a special permit for an accessory professional office to allow music lessons to be given in his home pursuant to Section 194-90 of the zoning ordinance at 65 Ritter Road in Stormville. Resolution offered by Zoning Board member Mary Seminara. Whereas the applicant has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the above-stated extension, and whereas the board moves to adopt their standard decision and order and finds that Mr. Broderson has adhered to the rules and regulations that were included in his decisions which were approved on October 6, 2010, January 11, 2011, May 12, 2015, and February 28, 2017, and last revised on February 20...
no, take off that last part. That doesn't belong on there.
Okay. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby extends the special permit for an accessory professional office for a term of 2 years from the expiration date of the most recent decision and order, which is dated November 13th, 2018, and at which time this applicant must apply to renew the special permit, and such permit shall be reviewed by this board. This extension shall expire on November 13th, 2020. Be it further resolved that the applicant is reminded that he must continue to adhere to the rules and regulations that were included in his original decision and order on October 6, 2010.
Is there a second?
Second. Okay.
Seconded by Tara. Pam?
Yes.
So votes as follows: Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara? Mary?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Your motion carries, you're all set.
For another 2 years.
I'll mail it to you.
Okay? All right. Just pass that down to Pam, just in case. Okay, again, there's no action item on item number 3. The applicant has withdrawn his application, and because it was, he withdrew it after it was scheduled for public hearing, there's no refund. So we're on up to item number 4. Appeal 3895, Knapp, 36 Shallow Stream Road, Carmel, is requesting a 2-foot height variance for an existing 32-foot by 26-foot detached garage at property which is in his ownership at 192 Rushmore Road, Stormville, pursuant to Section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Knapp. Come on out. All right, so we had the opportunity to review your application last month. You recently bought the property with the garage there. To the best of your knowledge, the garage was built about 9 years ago, so it was not built by you. When you actually, I guess, when you were doing your due diligence and your title search, something came up about that permit not being closed out or something. So you mentioned at the last meeting that you had approached the building department about how do you clean it up, and so you were told you had to come here because the height of it to the eave, I guess, the middle of the eave is 1.5 feet to 2 feet too high, so. But in essence, it fits in with the property, it's been there for 9 years, and again, you didn't do it, so I don't think the board had any concerns, but I will open it up. Is there anything else
No.
you want to add to that? So are there any comments or questions from board members?
Yep.
No, is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the appeal from Will Knapp, 36 Shallow Stream Road, Carmel, requesting a 2-foot height variance for an existing 32-foot by 26-foot detached garage on property at 192 Rushmore Road, Stormville? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And,
Jim.
In reference to appeal 3895 by Will Knapp, in reference to a 2-height variance for an existing 32-foot by 26-foot detached garage pursuant to Section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance, the location of 192 Rushmore Road, and the resolution being offered by zoning board member James Meyer. Whereas the applicant has applied for the above stated variance, and whereas the board moves to adopt their standard decision and order and finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to the community, the desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as the garage was built 9 years ago by the prior owner. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the above stated variances.
Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows: Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara? Aye. Mary?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So your motion carries, you're all set.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay? Now you just have to deal with the building department to close out the permit and everything. Okay?
Very good, thank you.
All right, take care, have a good evening. All right, item number 5, Appeal 3898 O'Donnell Residential Construction, Inc. John O'Donnell, O'Donnell Residential Construction, Inc., is requesting a 7-foot front line and a 7-foot sideline variance for a proposed dwelling which is to be built on the existing foundation of a dwelling which was built in 1962 at 374 Augusta Drive, Hopewell Junction, and destroyed by a fire in February 2017. He also needs a 12-foot front line variance for a proposed concrete walkway and a 2-foot sideline variance for an existing 10-foot by 10-foot shed pursuant to Sections 194-126 and 194-107B3 and 194-93 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Mr. O'Donnell did give us a heads up that he wasn't going to be here, but you're Sean? Yes. Okay. So Sean is here in his place. We did have the opportunity last month to talk with John about what he was proposing. In essence, there was a house there. The house had been there since 1962 when Augusta Drive itself was developed. A fire about 2 years ago, actually, at this point. Yeah, 2 years ago, destroyed it. He's running out of time in terms of the grandfathering in. But the foundation doesn't meet current code in terms of where it's placed. We did have a conversation with John, though, about moving that shed. So we are going, it's, right, and it only needed to come in like 2 feet. So he did assure us, so we're going to actually remove that from, okay, it's still in his request, so we continued with that. But we are going to make sure that's not included in the resolution, so. But the house itself is going to meet the character of the neighborhood. He said he's going to have concrete steps, so it will not be wood steps, so you'll be able to work with that in terms of the entrance to the home. It's going to be, my understanding is it's going to be like an extra step higher than what was there previously. Yeah, so, but otherwise, the house is essentially going to look like the rest of the neighborhood. Okay. Any other comments or questions from board members?
I'm good.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against? Did I open that public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't write it down. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against the request by John O'Donnell requesting a 7-foot front line and a 7-foot sideline variance for a proposed dwelling to be built on an existing foundation at 374 Augusta Drive, Hopewell Junction. Yes?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Mr. Paul Barrett, and I'm right next door to
Okay.
374. I'm 370 Augusta Drive. And I just have a couple of questions and concerns in regards of the proposal
Okay.
that O'Donnell is putting together. In the outline, I see a 7-foot sideline variance. Is it the north side or the south side of the house that has the variance issue?
Okay.
All right, and is that going to...
Help you in terms of whether it's the right or left of the property? Sometimes that's easier.
Right. Is that going to impede the property line?
What do you mean? It's not changing the property line.
Okay, so so the variances are going to be basically understood for the pre-existing
Exactly.
foundation.
He's going to
So
build
there's-
on the existing foundation.
Okay, so there's really nothing going to be modified or changed except putting a house on the foundation?
Putting a house on there, and as you heard him say, the house is going to be one step, one riser higher than it was before. So there's going to
Okay.
be concrete steps in the front, not wood, but concrete, and there will be one additional step from what there was before.
Okay, do we know what type of house it's going to be put there? I'm sorry?
We actually have it.
Yeah, plan.
Is it a
we do have plans,
two-story? Is it a
yes.
one-story?
2 stories.
Here, if you want to come see it.
It's like 1.5 story?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, two, kind of.
I think it's 2.
In the back, it's 2, yeah, so
So just my question is, because of the proximity of my property line versus 374 property line, which is extremely close, if anybody went down Augusta Drive, you'd see that there's a lot of buffer between houses except for our house and 374. I just wanted to make sure that whatever house is going to be put on the foundation, that it's not going to affect my quality of life, as far as being too close to the property, as far as maybe obscuring sunlight, or to that effect. So I'll open the floor if somebody would like to speak on the O'Donnell's behalf on that.
Okay, again, what he's proposing is to work with the existing foundation where a house was there
Right.
for 55 years, actually. It went, just burned down 2 years ago. So it would not be any closer than it was. You see from the plans in front
Oh,
of you.
yes, I see the
Okay,
drawings.
so you can see what type of house he's proposing.
Where will the deck be? The deck? The previous
There,
deck.
you have additional pages of
I don't
plans
have
there.
glasses on, but the deck
there-
steps were facing my driveway, and it was imposing upon
At
mine.
this
I'm
point,
sorry, I don't have your name, and I don't know if you're the,
370 Augusta Drive.
okay, so you're the same house. Thank you.
Correct.
It's a similar, similar, it looks like a one-story with a
Yes.
second story in the roof.
Yes,
But in the
Updated.
back,
The deck
Yes.
would be off the back, not on the side.
because the steps previous, the steps were practically on my,
they would come
I have it-
forward to the house.
yeah, it was,
Yeah, no, it would be back here and it would go towards the driveway.
It would go towards
Yes,
the
yep,
driveway,
yep.
okay.
the driveway is going to stay where it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
currently.
yeah.
Okay, so their steps are not going any closer to the house?
No.
Okay, they're not extending
the
beyond
opposite
the
direction.
Couldn't get
foundation?
any closer, we're pretty much on top of each other.
So, just so the record's clear, because you're sort of having a soft conference up there, that they're concerned about the steps. Are the steps actually going to be on the other side of
Yeah,
the house?
yeah, they're not gonna go outside the envelope of the house itself.
Okay, so that resolves that issue for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
I
now
just-
get to see what it looks like, front, back, and,
Yeah.
okay?
and there's a deck 16 by 10, I believe, in the back.
It doesn't have it on here, I think it's
First floor plan has a deck.
16 by 12.
Because the backyard's not that large. I know it says two
Acres.
acres, but it's on a.
Not all
It's like a
usable
flag.
area.
Yeah, it's
on a
all,
very
it's
narrow
not,
sh-
it's very
Yeah.
narrow and it's very close to us.
So the first floor plan shows the deck. The first floor plan on A2, floor plan A2.
Yeah, 16 by 12.
See, 16 by 12.
So the stairs would, he'd bring the stairs towards the driveway, so when you pull in, then you'd walk up onto the deck. So
Okay.
they wouldn't, I'm not sure how it was before it came this way.
It was,
Right.
yeah, towards
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
It's towards
towards my
the
driveway.
Oh, I kind of remember going in. There
You
was a
have to
door
walk
here.
around the,
Right,
and,
Yep,
you know,
yep.
remember?
No,
Yeah.
the door to the deck is down, more towards the
Okay.
middle of the house now.
Okay.
Sean, do you know there's going to be any landscaping on that side?
Can we buffer that, put some privacy screen there, or,
On this side?
Again, he's just putting the house where it was, so,
I get that.
you know,
Yeah, I'm sure you could put some kind of shrubs there or something. Again, it's kind of close now to put it, then it would limit this side yard as well.
Right.
So,
But it's just a concern for a quality of life. We've always had issues there in
with
the
people,
past
yeah.
with people.
Dogs and
You know, and I certainly really don't want the builder to build a house and have a bathroom window stare outside, stare out to my front yard, and
Sure.
so it's a little bit of I guess, a step back and think about how the floor plans are going to be designed
Right.
because of the proximity of the property line. That's my question here tonight.
well, and again, because codes have changed, that's why he had to bring it to us, that's why you were noticed, and you had the opportunity to hear what they are proposing to do, so.
yeah, there's one window on this side of the house in the upstairs bedroom, on the side facing
So
yours.
this is a single-family home, because
Yeah.
before this was a two-family
It
home.
was a legal two-family home.
Well, they lost that grandfathering,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
Because it was a two-family.
Yeah, no, it's
They
going to
were-
be single family.
So that should be less of an imposition on you, so.
Right.
All right, so
So the first floor, actually, like the living area where, you know,
Yes.
people, there is
Yes.
no windows facing your side,
okay,
you know? So it would just be the one window in the upstairs bedroom.
Okay.
okay. All right. As far as septic system, how is that going to be applied?
John, is it where,
Existing
There's-
septic, yeah.
There really isn't a septic system there. They only have one field. There's only one field.
As far as I know,
As far
there's
as I
always
saw-
a...
well, that's going to be subject to the Board of Health.
Board of Health's
The
going to have
prior
to approve
owner
it.
only
That's
has
really
one
not bef-
field.
That's not really before us.
Right, that's not the,
Okay, I'm just saying, okay. All righty.
Okay.
All right, well,
Thank you for showing
thank you for
no, you're
giving
welcome.
us the time and the
Just because you,
concern.
can I ask you to sign in on the?
Absolutely.
On the clipboard, just so we have your name for the record, thank you. And you can keep those plans, by the way. Sean, you can keep them, I don't.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Is there anyone else who has any questions or concerns? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's appeal number 3898 for O'Donnell Residential Construction for a 7-foot front line and a 7-foot sideline variance for proposed dwelling, which is to be built on the existing foundation of a dwelling which was built in 1962 at 374 Augusta Drive, Hopewell Junction, and destroyed by a fire in February 2017. A 12-foot front line variance for proposed concrete walkway. We're going to take out the 2-foot variance,
Yes,
Okay.
please. Well, that's what was noticed,
so leave that.
but we're
Down,
gonna,
okay.
yeah.
A 12-foot front line variance for proposed concrete walkway and a 2-foot sideline variance for an existing 10-foot by 10-foot shed pursuant to Section 194-126, 194-93, and 194-107B3 of the zoning ordinance. Resolution offered by Zoning Board Member Tara Franco, whereas the applicant has applied for the above stated variance, and whereas the board moves to adopt their standard decision in order and finds that the granting the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to the community, as this is a residential community and there had been a house in this location since 1962. The desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as the applicant will be using the existing foundation, which needs the front and side yard setback variances, and is adding a concrete walkway for which a 12-foot front line variance is requested. The variance requested is not
Sorry, I'm going to
substantial.
interrupt you there. Pam, we had asked that the shed removal actually be listed here, and it's not. So we need to add that in.
The shed removal.
The shed move, the moving of the shed, yes.
Okay.
And the applicant is moving the shed,
Moving the shed 2 feet.
right.
Excuse me, can you,
Yeah, you need to take your conversation.
The variance requested is not substantial, and the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Now therefore be it resolved, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the above stated variances.
So we're just going to amend, let me get a second. Is there a second?
second,
Okay, then we're
as
gonna-
amended.
But the amendment is going to read, at the end of that, the desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as the applicant will be using the existing foundation, which needs the front and side yard setback variances, and is adding a concrete walkway for which a 12-foot front line variance is requested, and the applicant will move the shed within the proper setbacks.
So it's seconded as amended.
Okay? You
Okay.
amend your motion
I
to
amend
include that, and then
Second.
Aziz seconded. So votes as follows: Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And myself, aye. You're all set. Okay. So that was the last of our public hearings this evening, so now we're moving on to reviews. As I mentioned earlier, there is no item 6. We are going to take items 7, 8, and 9 all together, because it's the same applicant. So item number 7 is Appeal 3886, Morgan Pina, Joanne Morgan and Fred Pina, 2 Kane Drive, Stormville, are requesting a variance to allow a camper to be parked in their front yard pursuant to Section 194-52.1 of the zoning ordinance. Item number 8, is the same address, same applicant, requesting a 2-foot variance for an existing 6-foot fence, which is located in front of the front line of the house pursuant to Section 194-98 of the zoning ordinance. And number 9, same applicant, same address, is requesting a variance to allow a shed under 144 square feet in size to remain located in front of the house pursuant to Section 194-107B3 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening. Come on up. All right, so we have had, I think, 2 or 3 discussions already with the applicant.
Right.
Deanne, I know this is your first time here, so.
Yes, it is.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We've had multiple discussions about the limitations of this yard.
Right.
It is a corner lot, it has 2 front yards, it's a very wide but very narrow lot and extremely rocky. We totally agree with the applicants that they, in fact, have very usable backyard on their property.
Right.
But the code only allows certain things within the property. And so the applicant had to get a survey. At the last meeting, it came to our attention that the actual front line of the pool is in front of the house.
Right.
So we also have that issue that we still have to deal with as well.
Right.
Because I don't think they're looking to have that pool removed.
Yeah.
But the applicant, in essence, put a above-ground pool, in essence, put earth around it, so created a patio around it, but a patio that extends 20 feet out to the front property line, and then, so it's already raised and above ground with a retaining wall, and then has a 6-foot fence on top of it.
Right.
White, bright fence.
Okay.
So, when the applicant was here, we did ask the applicant multiple occasions to provide us a landscape plan, to show us how they would screen not just the fence and the retaining wall, because, again, you've built 3 or 4 feet plus the 6 feet on top of that, bright white, but they also have the shed, and they also have a camper parked in their, what they want to call their side yard, but it is a front yard. So we asked for a landscape plan, and to the best of my knowledge, we still haven't received one.
Okay.
So, what's new since we last?
Well, they retained me. And thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the ZBA. My name is Dan Leary. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an attorney, and I represent the applicants, Fred Pina and Joanne Morgan. We submitted a narrative with some supplemental information at the end of last week, and I've had a chance to review all the materials, look at the layout, and participated in the supplemental submission that was transmitted to you on,
Can I just interrupt that? The supplemental submission, we had essentially seen all that before, except it did reference neighbors' letters, and I didn't
Okay.
get any neighbors' letters.
No, there were, well, we have neighbors' letters.
Okay.
We can submit those tonight or at the hearing. But there's definitely additional material. I participated in the development of the narrative supporting the interpretations or, in the alternative, the area variances that we're seeking. And just to respond to your point about the landscaping plan, I think it would be important for this board to have a hearing, to schedule the hearing on the interpretations and the area variances, and hear from the public and the neighbors who clearly, by all accounts, don't have any issues with what we're doing here, or what is there. And we can talk about that as part of the public hearing process and later on as conditions, potential conditions to any approval if you deem it appropriate. But at this point, we've submitted, I think, a complete application for a variance, for interpretations, or in the alternative, if you don't agree with those interpretations, for variances. And we're here tonight to ask to see if you can schedule a hearing.
Okay, so you're saying we're not going to get a landscape plan?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think it would be important to hear from the neighbors about what that might be in terms of what appropriate landscaping could take place. Otherwise, we're doing it in a void. We don't have, as far as I know, we don't have feedback from you. We need to understand better the issues with visibility or obtrusiveness, if there are any, and there don't seem to be any, about how it could be handled. So I don't see a need for that to schedule the hearing. and to go forward, and that could be a discussion as part of the deliberations.
I think part of the problem that's gone on in the past is that the board hasn't had a landscape plan to react to.
Right.
I think your clients have come up here and they've said, oh, you know, it looks okay, you know, and the neighbors may not have any problems with it. They may all be true, but they never had a plan to react to. And the neighbors won't have a plan to react to either if we schedule a public hearing without seeing the plan.
Okay.
This is a public hearing.
No,
this
it's
isn't.
not. No,
This
no,
is
it
still a
isn't.
review.
No, no, no.
This is still review. Your client is putting his hand up behind you.
Okay.
You don't see that.
We did ask a landscape architect to visit the site. I don't have the most recent letter from him. He did take a look at some type of plantings that might be appropriate along the rock wall. He did have some reservations about putting it very close to the retaining wall. But he also noticed that the quality of the soil would have to be looked at because it was very dry and not, so he wanted to take some time, so he did prepare a letter for that. We could submit that with it, and we could give you the list. I think some of the plants that he listed were arborvitaes, an American, installing 9, 5, 6 foot, installing 8 3/4 dogwood, shrubs, and so a mix of planting along the rock wall is
Okay.
something that he might suggest, but he said
But
the
again, you have
soil-
a very wide yard, so we were trying to screen both the shed and the camper and the fence. So it'd be helpful to see where that was. Thank you.
Okay.
It's helpful to hear that you've at least met with a landscape architect and that you're looking to put together a professional plan. That's extremely helpful. Because an analysis of the soils, no matter what we pick, if they're not going to thrive, then,
That's what he was concerned
it-
with. He said the soils look very, particularly dry, very rooty because there were large trees next to it, but he
and we certainly
proposed
know
a
your
couple-
property is very rocky, so,
So we were committed to continuing with some sort of landscaping plan, but exactly what would actually grow and what would be able to thrive there.
do you have a sense from this landscape architect, if we schedule this for public hearing for March, 4 weeks from now, that you'll have a plan at that point? Because again, your neighbors may very well want to see, what are you proposing?
We could present something.
Yeah, we could have something presented to you
Okay,
that can be reviewed by you and the neighbors can see it.
that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Because again, that's what we've asked for, I think, twice now, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in disagreement with what you said about scheduling a hearing, once we feel you're prepared to go forward, so.
Okay.
That's what we've been suggesting for a
Okay.
while.
So we'll be prepared at the hearing to present information about a landscaping plan.
Okay.
So the landscaping plan itself or just information about the landscaping?
Well, I think there'll be depictions of what we're proposing so that it's reviewable by you and by the neighbors.
Okay.
So they have an understanding of it.
Yeah, the
It's going to
important
be
thing is,
tangible for the people to understand what it is.
yeah, the important thing would be to understand what's going to screen the fence, the 6-foot fence with the
Okay.
retaining wall, but then also what's going to screen the shed and the camper.
Okay.
Okay. We do have the issue, though, of the pool. Being in, according to the survey that we got, the pool is in fact, extends in front of the house.
We know we have to get that variance.
Yeah, so we have to add that to one of the requests here.
It's in there already, isn't it?
No,
No, I don't.
no, it's not.
It's not.
It's, you have a shed, a 2-foot variance for the 6-foot fence in front of the house, and you have the camper. So, no, we need to.
Okay, so that would have to be
The applicant
added.
just needs to come in and amend one of these variances to just add that
Right,
in.
right.
So that the proper noticing can be done.
Okay.
I will encourage our clerk to notice this as one, okay, as one notice. So
Right.
that neighbors aren't getting 3 different letters.
And we agreed from last time that the pool doesn't penetrate the front line of the house.
We disagreed. When we saw the survey, it was in fact closer to the property line than the front line of your house. So, but it was minuscule, the amount of, it actually extended, I think it was a foot or less. So, hold on, let me see if I actually, wrong pro. with the last survey that we got. Oh, you got it? Thank you. 'Cause- All right. So the front line of the house is 47 and a half feet from the property line. The front of the pool is 47 feet.
Right, it's skewed.
So it's half a foot.
True.
It is in front of the house. So we have to deal with that.
Okay, because if the line projecting along the front of the house,
That's not what we're looking at. Okay? We have to go by the front line of the house. What's existing there, at the point that it ends, it is 47 and a half feet from the property line. That's what your surveyor is telling us. All right? So we have a 1-foot variance for the above-ground pool. And so the face of the retaining wall is 26.4 feet, but again, to the pool is the 47 feet. So in essence, that patio is 20 feet, 20, 21 feet. Which, if the applicant had not been told to stop work, would not be there, which is one of our issues. So. But that said, so we have to amend one of the notices to include that, so the clerk can notice this properly to the neighbors. Do I have a motion to allow this to go for?
Before we go there, I had a note here that said the house needed a 3-foot variance. And did I take some?
No, you're right. 47 feet is less than 50 feet.
And I don't
So
think
Pam,
that's-
we need to include that as well. It's a non-conforming, we're just going to clean it up.
Okay.
We're not going to tell him to move a house. Just push it back 3 feet. No, I mean, while we're here, let's just clean it up.
Was that the zoning at the time the house was created?
Probably not, but, I mean, yes, but
Then it's.
We don't know.
A pre-existing non-compliant.
Right, exactly. That's not an issue.
Okay.
But while we're here, so he doesn't have any issues when he goes to sell the house, let's clean it up, that's all. Okay? Anything else? Thank you, Mary. So do I have a motion to schedule this for public hearing for March?
So moved per the suggestions that we have made.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you next month.
Okay, thank you. And who do we coordinate the notice with, Pam or?
Pam,
Okay.
Pam can give you your instructions for your sign tonight, before you leave, right now.
Okay.
Thank you for the survey.
Thank you.
He has 2 front yards, so you're going to need 2 signs, right?
I'll give you a call.
Okay, so that took care of 7, 8, and 9. So item number 10, Appeal 3896, Gunther Cottrell, 110 Van Black Road, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 650-square-foot variance for an existing 40-foot by 40-foot detached garage pursuant to Section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. Good evening. Okay, since you were here last, we did have an opportunity last month to start looking at this. And since you were here last, a couple other things have come to our attention. First off, the town code allows a detached garage up to 750 square feet or 60% of the footprint of your house. The footprint of your house is 1,680 square feet, so 60% would be 1,008 square feet, okay? Your garage, your first garage, according to what you told us, which I think you said was 53 by 36?
Yes, that was existing.
Okay, so that's 1,908 square feet, which is already 900 feet above what would be allowed. Just so you know, the assessor thinks that that garage is 1,728 feet.
Okay.
So they probably went by whatever was on the building permit. So just a heads up on that. But the second garage that you're now proposing at 40 by 40 is 1,600 square feet. So you're not actually asking for the 50 square foot variance, you need the whole 1,600 feet. In essence, this garage really shouldn't be there at all. That's the first issue, because based on the code and the size of your house, the footprint of your house, you've already exceeded what you would be allowed. The existing garage was not built by you. When you bought the property, it was there already. It has all the appropriate permits, or it was built with a permit. So, so we're not
Okay.
putting into question the first garage, it's this second garage. The other issue we have, of course, is this additional carport that was also built and is also out there. So, now, the bigger issue, though, is the fill and the filling in of the floodplain, which, okay, you know, and understanding for board members, your property backs onto the Probst property, which all of us can see anytime we drive on 376 past, it's opposite Emmeline Pond, okay? So if anybody knows the old J.C. Penney house, that whole big wetland area there, that's the Gertrude Probst property, okay? Your house is on the other side. In fact, at this time of year, if someone knows where to look, we can actually see your garages, okay? Yeah, we can actually see them. So, but you can see other houses and you can see other buildings as well. So it's not just that, you know, your garages are not the only structures that you see. But again, because the many leaves are off the trees at this time of year, it's clear. So the first thing we need to amend is the fact that the variance that you're asking for is the full 1,600 square feet and not the 650. So you sent us somehow we got a record of fill that was delivered?
Yes, I dropped it off.
Okay, thank you. We just get it, you know, sent to us by the clerk, so we don't
I dropped
necessarily
it
know
off
how
at
she
10.
gets it. So when you were here last, you said that it was, you know, a handful of trucks that came in delivering fill, and that they did it over the course of a day and a half. That's,
Well, this is the date posted there.
no, I know, that was the first disconnect that I saw, was over the course of the receipt that we have shows it was over the course of a month, not just a day and a half. Well, yeah, but I have to tell you, the receipt that we got doesn't have a location where the fill was delivered to. So that's the first,
Well, that came from...
the company that provided the
yes.
fill.
I mean, I can probably dig up the actual receipt each time they would drop it off, but I just pretty much trying to be accurate and requested for the full.
But again, we do have the receipt right here from the,
That's the total, yes.
yeah, from the West
West
Hook
Hook,
Sand and
yes.
Gravel. I mean, they have
Yes.
each truck and how much load it was,
Yes, I
bringing.
figured that's more
And the
accurate.
cost for each load.
Yes.
And it is almost 405 tons of
Material.
material.
Yeah, they go by weight, so it...
Correct.
kinda
And again, it
deceiving.
was over a period of, as the chair said, for almost a month.
But now, was this the fill to just create the base to be
Just-
able to
just the
put the
base,
garage on?
Yeah, that's all I did, it's just the base for that 40 by 40.
Okay, how did you fill the foundation? How did you fill the garage floor?
Well, this is cement, there's a 10-inch cement on top of the gravel,
Okay. So
which
what-
is, it's, this
So did you
footing
dig
all
a
around.
trench
Yes,
into
there's
the
a footing
fill
around,
and
yes.
then started your concrete block there, that way?
Yes, I had it done. Jeremy Construction, they did the footings all around, and then 8-inch in the middle, 12-inch on the outer.
So you did not bring in any additional fill for the garage floor?
No, no.
Okay. Because
It
we're
was
just trying to
cement.
understand the quantity, because what did you say, how many tons?
405 tons, almost 300 cubic yards.
That's just the gravel.
Right, it was,
Then they put
in
a
essence,
cement.
it was calculated out by the town engineer to be 300 cubic yards.
Yes, and then they did the cement on top of that after they compacted.
Okay. So we're trying to get a handle on how much fill came in, because in essence, your entire backyard, even where the first garage is in a floodplain. But we think that the first garage was built before we were managing floodplains per se. So, but now we have an obligation to both New York State DEC and to the federal government to manage floodplains. So this is not just East Fishkill imposing requirements here. This is the federal government and New York State, okay? So you've now brought in fill that has filled part of a floodplain. The impact of that is, we've heard from neighbors downstream or down, around the corner from you, who have a stream that runs through their property that is now much wider and much bigger than it was before.
Yeah, but that's impossible. I mean, I never have any problem. I mean, they built that complex right behind me. That thing was just built, what, a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago? That big offices behind me? I mean, that wasn't there before.
Yeah, but that, okay, where you're talking about is off of 376?
Yes, yes.
The
That's-
commercial complex there? Yeah, but that's at a much, much higher elevation there.
I'm much higher. I think they're lower.
They're not in the flood.
They're, yeah, they're not in the floodplain. You're in the floodplain.
I never see any water back there. I mean,
Well, maybe you're not seeing the water, but your property has in the past been used for storage of water, particularly in large rain events. And so now that you have filled that in, there's that much less space for water to store, to be kept. So now it's affecting other properties. And so the stream on this one house that I went off of Van Black, their stream is much larger than it was before. And now their backyard, the water is now encroaching that much more in their backyard. It's higher than it was before. So you really have created some impacts on neighbors that you may not realize, because it's not necessarily that, we haven't heard from your neighbors next door. This is from neighbors that are several properties away from you, okay, where that water course works its way through. So we really do have some bigger issues here. So did the town planner take a look at? Okay, so that's how we got to the, okay, that's how we got to the calculation about the fill and the floodplain, et cetera. So, I mean,
It's not just the foundation, though. You got the perimeter outside of the foundation.
It's the storage area.
You have the driveway.
yes.
And just to give you an example, I did a quick calculation. Let's say an 80 by 80 footprint, 4 inches thick is 85 cubic yards. If he raised it up 2 feet, that's 510 cubic yards. If he brought it up 3 feet, that's 765 yards.
So just to try to help you understand this, imagine those 18 dump trucks that brought that fill in. Imagine those full of water. There's no place for all that water to go now. That's what I'm trying to let you know. And you might not have seen that water because it was stored underground. But there's no place for that water to go, and now it's impacting your other neighbors. So the issue, like I said, is much bigger than just the town's code here. We really, I mean, I don't see how we can let you keep that garage there, unless you're going to tell us how you're going to be able to fix this and take fill out or something like that, and create more water storage back on your property where it was. All right? The other issue is that you mentioned to us, you have a house there. You rent out that house. It's probably going to be rented for another couple months. That house has a 2-car garage on it, and you're already using one of those garages. So you've already got a garage in the house. You've got a 53-foot by 36-foot garage, okay, detached garage already. And so why a normal residential use would need, and I understand, you said you have muscle cars, you've got an army truck. I mean, we do have pictures, I guess, you provided of the truck, which you said, you told us at the last meeting that these are the 2 garages for board members. And then you told us that the carport was being used for the trailer, but yet you gave us a picture with the army truck.
Since I, to get approval, I would bring it inside.
Sorry, Navy truck. It says USN on it.
Well,
Got to get my right service order here. So, it's kind of in your court to tell us what you're going to do here.
I guess I better get a lawyer. I just don't have a choice, so.
I'm thinking you have a bigger issue here than you might be thinking you do, okay? So, I think we're going to, my suggestion, you don't have to listen to me, but my suggestion is you need to go back, rethink what you are going to do here. You may need to consult with an engineer to see what your options are, all right? But we definitely need Did you see those? We're going to need some more information, pass those to Pam, before we're going to be able to do any, I don't even think you want us to schedule this for a public hearing. All right? But again, it's your choice. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I don't believe this board has enough information to move ahead at this point.
Okay, I guess I'll get back to Pam.
To Pam? Okay.
Because
Any comments from board members?
I have a lot of concern. I'm familiar with that property, and I was sort of surprised when the owner, who had the brick house up on Van Black, that's right next to where those driveways go back.
Yeah.
I was sort of surprised they allowed him to subdivide and put those houses up back there, because that regularly had water on top of the ground.
Well, if I knew that, I would have never bought the property
Yeah.
years ago.
Oh, now, how much fill and what he moved around at the time those houses were built, I don't recall. But there was regularly, in those houses on the very end, often had water coming up on their driveways. So to impact that floodplain area is significant, as the chair has talked about. So you're gonna have to, her suggestion about speaking to an engineer to see what you're gonna do is appropriate, and try to figure out what's going on. But that area has been regularly impacted. I'm surprised, the rain we had this past year was, often record amounts a month, but we never had a huge rainfall, hurricane type thing come in. If you got that, I wouldn't be surprised that those people down there are not gonna have a huge problem again. So, it's very important that it be addressed.
Anybody else? Okay, so we're going to, well, we don't have to adjourn this, but we're going to wait to hear from you, but you have to get back to us by, what, the 25th of the next, thereabouts, Monday, the 25th of March, just so we know whether you'll
Yes,
come to the next
will.
meeting or what you want us to do with your application. You obviously have an existing structure, so we have to do something, or you have to do something. But I think you need a little bit more professional guidance before
Okay,
we proceed at this point.
I will.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, as I mentioned early on, there's the applicants for Appeal 3897. There's no action on that. They've requested to be on the April agenda. So we are up to number 12, Appeal 3899, Mortensen, Tanya Mortensen, 11 Americana Boulevard, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 29-foot front line variance for a proposed 24-foot by 24-foot detached garage pursuant to Section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Hi.
All right, so when we did see you last month, and we kind of talked through what we had at that time, which didn't seem, the plan that we had from your professional didn't seem to line up with what you were thinking was going to happen.
So he
So-
sent over new plans. And they look very accurate to me.
So now we are these the most current ones? Pam, do we have the new plans?
Says January 29th.
Which would have been after we met, yes, so we do have the most recent. Okay, good. So we now see, all right, let me set the record straight here. So we have, again, this is a house that has another 2 front yards. So you have the issue that you're supposed to be 50 feet in, and you're really not allowed a detached garage in front of the house. So the code doesn't allow it. So you are asking for both a detached garage and to be well within that 50 feet. That would be required for a front yard setback. We had asked last time about, because you have more buildable area along Americana Boulevard, but that was not where you were interested in putting this garage, even though that's the side of your house that your existing garage is on.
It's not.
That's what's
in the-
labeled.
That may be the old.
It's not in the front of the house. If I put it on Americana, it would be in front of my house.
Correct. You got the steps going in the front of the house.
See, I don't
Excuse
get the
me?
You have the steps going in front of the house.
Yes. Steps
didn't get
going
the
up
new
to the
one.
front
Oh,
door.
right,
and-
correct. I have 2 front doors in the front of the house, and steps go up to it.
Oh, thank you.
Correct. Based on the first survey and the second survey, previously it was 14.5 feet from the Taconic Drive, and now it is being shown as 21.5 feet
Right.
from the Taconic. So it is moved
Closer to the
closer to the
pool.
pool and the area. Can it move closer than that?
I don't think
Or
it can.
Or can you attach it? Because again, the biggest issue is that this is a detached garage. If you can create a breezeway over and it becomes an attached garage, we don't have the issue about the fact that you're putting a detached garage in your front yard.
It's not my front yard, it's the side.
It is a front yard because it fronts on a street.
Okay,
We understand, yeah.
We understand,
Yeah.
yes.
Not where the front of your house
Right.
goes to.
right.
Yes.
It's the side street, but it's because it's,
And that's the
On the
side
road.
your driveway is on.
correct.
So under the law, in order to maintain sight vision, perception and stuff, line of sight, they classify that as a front yard too.
Okay. There
So
really
is
isn't
it
a
possible
way-
to connect it somehow?
There really isn't a way to connect it.
Breezeway?
Like a breezeway.
There's a fence between where the garage is going to go and the pool. I have nothing to connect it to. If I connected it to the garage, you're going to have a garage in front of a garage, and, I mean, that...
No, no, we're not, what we're saying, a breezeway, so a covered walkway,
There isn't anything to
covered
connect it.
connection there.
Let's go question. Let's try to approach it from a different point of
Sure.
view. How far under this revised plan is your proposed garage from your pool and from the existing garage and screen porch?
It's 10 feet from the pool.
Okay. Now, suppose you moved your garage 4 feet further up and you connected the existing garage and porch with a covered breezeway.
So you're saying move it further?
We're not
closer
saying
to
move the garage.
No. The new garage, oh, just
so you could
add
put-
a,
So you could put it, connect it,
And then
attach
It
it.
can be diagonal.
Yes.
The breezeway can be diagonal.
let's, all right, we'll consider that and we'll
See,
try.
When your garage and screen porch, it's hard from telling it this, what that means. Is the screen porch already a breezeway between the
Yes.
residence and the garage?
No, it's attached to the side of the house, yes.
Yes, but
And
that's-
that would be
that's your
very
sh-
close to the garage that's going in.
So that's your breezeway between.
you walk through
already.
that to get
It's a
into the
screen
house.
porch,
Yeah,
it's got a roof over it.
Yeah.
I always refer to that as a breezeway. We
Sure.
can sit out there and catch the breeze and relax, and it's
Yes.
not part of your house.
Right.
Your heated house.
okay.
So if you, somehow you can, I don't know if you would block the door, but as the chair says, you can put it at a diagonal, do the same thing and make it an attached garage. You keep it as far away from the road, which you indicated you try to do, then you eliminate some of what the law says as a problem.
Okay.
You understand now?
I mean, it would kind of connect it to your house, make it more of a curved, you know what I mean? It just makes it more of a single unit to your house. You can
I'm
make
not
it quite
see-
decorative.
I'm not seeing it, but I
Okay.
have a very tough time seeing things before they happen. So I can't see how that could work, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of looking at this, and if you moved it, 3 feet further towards the garage, and you could put something on that, I think could look rather aesthetic. That
Right.
sort of goes from the garage, ends before the pool and stuff, and, maybe if you explain that issue, if you went to it, who's gonna be putting up the garage?
We've already spoke about that. Bayhorse Garage, it's already a prefabbed
It's a
garage.
prefab, so you don't have an architect or builder that you're dealing with.
No, this is the garage.
So they come and they just set it on who's putting the foundation in for you?
We have a mason that's doing it.
Maybe he can give you a suggestion, and maybe he could build a simple breezeway. All it has to be is a walkway with a roof over it.
Okay. Let's just go back and rethink it, because it's,
It's not a huge weighted issue as far as doing that.
okay.
So do we have to wait another month before we bring that to you, before I can?
Well, again, the issue is you're not allowed a detached garage. So we have to deal with that issue unless you're,
Right, but that wasn't said to me the last time.
we know.
I was told. Okay,
So
because I'm just confused, that's why I thought like.
I understand that because
Okay.
it dawned on us, it dawned on me afterwards that,
Right,
wow, we have a bigger issue here.
okay,
So, and it's not like we haven't approved detached garages, so we have gotten around that in the past,
Mm-hmm.
So
but
the issue is.
you have an
detached
existing
you couldn't
garage,
put it-
so that's
You
the,
couldn't put it on there anywhere on the property, a detached garage?
no, it's not
Well, you
supposed to be in your
can't.
front yard.
Can't be in your front yard. You don't have if I'm going by that dotted line, they didn't give you much buildable area otherwise, but, yeah, if you've had it on the other side of your house, you'd be fine.
You had it on the other side of the pool, you'd even be fine.
Yeah, yeah. Or you put it behind the pool back there, you would give you a variance for the
The setback.
setback, but
I don't, it
you
won't, it
you
won't
wouldn't have a
work there.
problem with it being in your front yard.
I have a problem with it in the front of the house, but, I mean, we can probably find a way to put a breezeway over it. So if I can get something drawn up, I mean, do we still have to wait another month to come back with that, or?
No, again, if we're calling it an attached garage,
Right.
not detached, then, I mean, you're telling us a diagram, is it white? Is that the color of what it's gonna be? What's the color of your house?
White.
White, so
Yeah,
it's gonna
it's
match that. So then my next question honestly is, what kind of screening or what vegetation exists in that 21 feet
We
from
talked
the road?
We talked about that last time. I have a fence and trees along it that I would extend down in front of the garage.
Good, because we
Have
want to
any
just
issue
make
with
sure
that.
that people are not distracted by suddenly seeing a structure there, but as long as their line of sight is distracted with trees or fence, whatever it is, then I'm much more comfortable with that.
So then all we have to do is grant you the area variance, which is easier than trying to do the other things.
Right.
Right.
Let's digest,
Understand?
we'll go
Let's-
back and look and
but-
see what we,
But we
let's
can
say
get
we
you
could-
scheduled for a public hearing, and if you decide in the next, 5 days that you're not going to proceed, you just let Pam know
Right.
when she doesn't advertise.
That's fine.
Okay.
We can schedule that, and I'll come up with a way that we can make it attached with a I'm sorry,
Breezeway,
keep it,
yeah.
overhang, or,
You can make it into a nice little cabana on that side for your pool.
yeah, right.
Now you put a little bench under there, I mean, just, it
All right.
does not have to be large.
Aesthetic, yeah.
If you think about,
attached, okay.
Right.
when those houses that went up in Fishkill, along Merritt Boulevard there are all these single-family houses, but they have this little breezeway that connects them. That made them attached as opposed to the detached.
I understand.
That's what we're talking about, something like that,
Okay.
Okay.
okay? So, it just,
That allowed them to comply with the zoning for that area.
right,
Okay,
Okay.
it'll get us that much closer, okay.
All right. So let's plan on that, okay?
okay.
Okay.
All right.
So do I have a motion to allow them to schedule a public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Pam will give you your instructions. You'll talk to Brian again, just to have him show it on a map, and then we're all set. Thank you. We will see you next month. So Pam, you're going to change it,
Something else, sorry.
And also, we will need the new plans as you're proposing.
and Pam, we're going to change it so it's not a detached.
Right.
Okay? Sure, have a good evening. Okay, number 13, Appeal 3900, McGimsey, Thomas McGimsey, 42 Wright Boulevard, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 7-foot sideline variance for a proposed 8-foot by 20-foot pool deck extension pursuant to Section 194-94 of the zoning ordinance. He's not here? Oh. Did we know he was not going to be here? No, we didn't. Okay, so we will direct the clerk to inform him that his presence is requested in March. So, item number 14, Appeal 3901, Hartshorn, sorry. Hartshorn? Thank you. I hate saying names wrong, so. Catherine Hartshorn, 843 Farmers Mills Road, Carmel, is requesting an area variance of .42 acres for buildable area due to environmental constraints in order to subdivide a 7.81 acre parcel of land, which is zoned B1 R3, that she owns at 3875 Route 52 into 2 lots, one of which is proposed to be 3 acres and the other is proposed to be 4.81 acres pursuant to Section 163-91 of, -19 of the East Fishkill Code. Good evening. All right, so this is the first time we're seeing your application. I understand you've been to the planning board.
Yes.
But again, you're on, so take us through what you've provided here.
My name is William Schilling. My address is in Carmel. With me this evening is Jamie LaJudas. She is a project engineer from Insight, also in Carmel. We, as the map shows, we have a split zone. The zone to the north is residential R3, and then to the bottom or the south is commercial B1. And as the chair stated, it's approximately 8 acres in total. We're looking for a 2-lot subdivision where we would keep the pre-existing non-conforming house that's in the B1 zone just as it is. That would lie in about 1 acre of property. I think it's 1.
3.
Okay. And then we would create a residential use for the residential property to the north. That's in an R3. We comply with all dimensional requirements with the exception of the lot count calculation. We have entitlement to 1.58 lots, and we're seeking 2 lots, hence a variance of 4.42% of the requirement for the lot count. I submitted a memorandum of law and an affidavit signed by Ms. Hartshorn, but I'm always intimidated when I'm last. I'm thinking I'm keeping people, but I'll go fast.
Don't worry about that. We have all night.
Kathy was here before the planning board previously, where she tried to create her use as a commercial use. Her husband is in the blacktop business. And they purchased this in 2005, and for 3 or 4 years came before the planning board in trying to get that commercial use. And after many, many months and a lot of money, they withdrew. It was clear that it wasn't being well received, so she purchased another site in Kent and put her commercial establishment in Kent, and now wishes just to develop this as her home with her husband. She currently lives in Kent in her in-laws' residence, and so they'd like to create this as their home. With regard to the law, we seek an area variance, and again, dimensionally, we're fully compliant with all the requirements in your code, with the exception of lot count calculation, where, because environmental constraints are considered, we are short. We have entitlement to create 1.58 lots, where we're seeking 2. I think the 5 criteria are self-evident. The neighborhood wouldn't be changed because we're creating a residential zone in a residential neighborhood. Obviating the need is easy also. My client tried very, very hard for a long time to try to develop this property in another mode, which it didn't succeed. There are no environmental conditions. We'll be before the Board of Health, we'll be before the Planning Board. I don't believe it's substantial. We comply with all the dimensional requirements and 80% of the lot count calculation. And there's no self-creation here. My client purchased this thinking that she could create her business, her husband's business on the property unsuccessfully. There are inherent problems with a split zone. A split zone makes it very difficult to create a unified use, and so that led to the problems at the planning board before. So she purchased almost 8 lots thinking she could put a residence here, and has come to find that she's short. Not an area, lot area, she's compliant, but with the lot count calculation, which leaves her a bit short. So we're seeking your consideration and your support with this area variance and to allow her to put the residential use on the residential property.
Okay, couple issues. You're saying you have no environmental concerns. Isn't this in the watershed?
It's, the easterly part is environmentally sensitive. Is it in the watershed?
It is in the watershed, and so we'd have to abide by those regulations as
Right.
far as health department goes, as far as limits of disturbance goes. We are under the acre threshold for DEC, so we don't have to provide any post-construction stormwater management practices for the project. We are aware that there are freshwater wetlands on the site. Basically all along the bottom of the site. Looking at the constraints map on the bottom, usually you can see where the wetlands are and then also the buffer, which takes, the wetlands themselves take up 2.15 acres of the 7.81 lot.
Right.
So it's a good portion, and that itself basically brings down our lot calculation, and that's why we're here tonight, is for that.
Okay, so you are in the watershed. You are proposing to to share a driveway with the residential house in the front?
Correct.
Which I understand is rented now? Okay, so it's, you're not in that house there, obviously. But my understanding is you have demonstrated that you have the ability to put your own driveway in, but I'm not understanding why you would not just put your own driveway in on the other side. And for such a nice house in the back, why would you not want your own driveway? I guess I don't get that.
Well, for reasons of not disturbing the wetland or the wetland buffer, we've elected to use the common driveway.
Are you saying, hold on, are you saying that the driveway proposed on the other side would be in the wetlands?
It would be in the buffer, the wetland buffer itself.
Oh, so you really can't do it then without?
You can, you'd have to go through the proper channels of getting a DEC permit.
Okay, so that, you do have environmental issues.
This is, well,
If you went that route.
and building on that comment, I mean, I don't know if it's really before us. Why not make the flag lot and have that portion come out over the existing driveway, other than your setback for that side, maybe, I don't know. And then right down the middle of the property, you're gonna put an easement so that maybe the driveway will go down the middle of the front lot? I don't know if those issues are really before us, but
Well,
it's-
the driveway isn't terribly consequential to the lot, which is located right on 52. So that while it is a quote-unquote shared driveway, for the most part, the driveway services
But
the,
my plan also shows an easement of 50 feet?
Yes.
In case you want to put a driveway down the middle of the front property?
Yes, if I could speak to that.
So it looks to me like you're trying to do an end run around the whole issue of how you're setting up the lots.
An easement actually was a suggestion of the town planner and the town attorney, not you, of course, the other town attorney. But essentially, it was just to provide access in case this owner would want to put a driveway, their own driveway,
And they suggested it go down the middle of the property?
Of somebody else's property?
their property. They also own this property,
No, but again, you're asking to subdivide the property.
but it would be the same owner.
Did they suggest?
Now it's the same owner.
You didn't answer the question.
So,
They suggested, the town board suggested go down the middle
The
of the
town
property?
planner.
town planner,
They suggested it go down the middle?
they suggested that we provide an easement.
So why not put it along
We
the edge
placed it
where
in
the
this,
driveway is?
we placed it in this condition, in this area, because the existing wetlands on site that are here are unusable land, or this
That's
lot.
on the other side. I keep
Let me
directing my
finish.
comments to the other
If you
side
let
of the
me
property.
finish, I will address your comment. Because of the existing wetlands here and the existing buffer here, essentially all of this land is not necessarily usable for this lot. Hence why we put it as far over, away from their available area as possible.
How far is it from the house itself? From that frame building?
Roughly
Roughly 50 feet?
From
I can scale it for you if you give me a second.
that 50-foot easement, if it's 50 feet,
Yeah, if the easement's 50 feet, that's going to be a lot less than 50.
more like 20, 15.
This building?
No, from that building.
This building?
Yeah.
This is an existing commercial building.
Understood, so what's,
That's what you're requesting. Okay.
yeah.
I thought you were talking about this one. I apologize. It is 20 feet from that. This is along the existing property line as well. That's an existing property line with an existing chain link fence
Yep, but you're,
to an existing commercial building.
maybe I'm not following you. You want to make that commercial residential, though? You want to say these are two residential lots
No,
now?
this lot is not part of our part of our application. This is a separate parcel, not part of this application at all.
Right, that's a separate owner.
Okay,
Right.
so you're trying to get,
So the property in question is, basically surrounds that smaller piece.
So the frontage that they're looking to provide to give, to make it a buildable lot is not actually usable area for them to put a driveway in, which is why they're proposing the easement, but they don't want to use it, because you probably have, that's where your grade changes are. You've got some significant grade changes there.
Yes, you have some grade changes just south of that, where you have the wetlands off of Route 52.
Well, even going into the property itself, you've got some,
so what,
There's actually
oh, okay, so you're talking, that's the other residence.
it's right
there.
off to the side of it.
So also, we wanted to avoid having a new driveway permit through the state as well, through the DOT, since this is a state road. We'd have to apply for several different permits if we were to have a separate driveway. So to minimize having a separate curb cut on Route 52, we elected to utilize an existing curb cut for a similar use that is currently being used for.
So right now, the cars that are going to be heading to the back, and you're talking about a huge garage. How many bay garage is that? A 7-bay garage. So you're talking about all the cars that would be going to the back lot, which with a again, a huge proposed asphalt courtyard, would be going right past the house in the front. And again, which at some point in the future could be under separate ownership.
It's not that there's going to be a huge amount of traffic. It's the fact that those bays are going to be used for a Duster, a GTX, El Camino. They're all old vehicles, old cars in itself.
Yeah, we need microphone here.
Is this on? Okay. It's not on, but that's what.
It's on for recording purposes.
Oh, okay. But that's what the usage would be. So it's basically my husband and I and my 3 kids. So it's just, that's all that is.
So this is a single-family home that we're proposing in the back of the property.
So are you just telling us that you can't get enough of an economic return on the existing house that's, I mean, you bought a 7.81 acre lot, okay? I get it, it's got split zoning, so you expected to be able to run a business out of there.
Because of its own light industrial. And for the uses accordingly, I thought I could have used it for the business that I do have. But because I was not allowed to, I spent with Mike Gillespie and the different ones here for many years to try and get permission to use it, to put up a garage and have the business there. But it did not work, so I acquired a piece of property across from Metric Motors on Legendville.
But back up, you tried making the rear portion of the property, you actually had trucks and stuff in the rear portion of the lot. If you look at an aerial, there's a lot of disturbance in the back there.
Well, there was disturbance because we had a friend of ours that had 2 trailers.
Okay.
He said, oh, I just want to store them there just for a little while, and then the little while grew into a little while longer.
Okay.
So I spoke with the building inspector at that time, and he had talked to me, and I got rid of them immediately. And in fact, he drove in there the same day I called him, and he said that they were removed, and thank you very much.
Okay, so, but what I'm not getting is, again, there's a lot of buildable area in that front area that's zoned for the, where's the B1 line?
The B1, I have it shown here. I don't think it's on the plan.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, it's not on ours, okay. So you do have area that's buildable where you could put a bigger business building there?
You would essentially have to tear down the building and rebuild it.
Yeah, I mean, or expand on it. You can't tell me it's not,
I don't think yield or economic hardship is a criteria for area variances. I think we're proposing a permitted use in a correct district. This is not a use variance. Economic hardship is not something we need to be showing you this evening.
I think we're
You're
trying
making a
to
face.
understand what you're asking for.
Well, simply.
Okay, and part of your
simply state-
application was that there was an economic hardship related to the application.
No, what I said was that my client did try to develop the property commercially, and none of the planning board members liked the traffic flow that was going to go to the rear of the building. This wasn't through lack of effort. This is not an end run. My client tried very hard for 4 years to try to get the commercial establishment approved by the planning board without success. So now we're proposing the single-family pre-existing non-conforming use to remain as it is, and we're proposing a single-family resident permitted use in a residential zone.
But you have less than half of the buildable area that you're supposed to have for this lot.
That's not true.
You're supposed to have 3/4 of an acre, and you have .33 if you need the .42 acre variance. So you have,
No,
No, I'm sorry.
you're asking for a .42.
For lot count, not buildable area. Buildable area we have.
we're compliant.
For each lot, we have 3/4 of an acre for both lots that are compliant for buildable area. Lot count is what we're here for.
Your variance request, is requesting an area variance of .42 acres for buildable area. That's what was submitted.
Lot count.
Yeah, that was in the app.
That was in the
And it's a good point, where our variance should be for lot count calculation, for which,
I'm just
I understand. I think the app.
reading what we've been given, folks.
I understand. I think you pointed that out in the application, that it was incorrect.
Right. Lot count, on our application, we ask for
To create one new building lot.
one new building lot where the code, section 163-19, requires a lot count calculation for every subdivision. Due to the environmental constraints on the property, the lot count calculation only yields 1.58 lots. So we would be requesting .42
An area variance of .42 lots.
for the lot count.
But the town planner believes that the buildable area required is 3/4 of an acre, and
It
you
is.
don't have that.
Do.
What do you have?
Have 3/4, this is 3 acres.
Okay, but that's on another lot.
This is 3, this is 3, this is 4.18. We have more than 3/4 of an acre of usable area
With all your setbacks.
with all within here, that's well over 3/4 of an acre.
Okay, that's not, okay, understand that that's not what was given, that's not what I read when I started this, so
I think that's where some of the.
something got misinterpreted somewhere along the line, so we're dealing with buildable area.
Could I ask you, Madam Chairman, what you're reading that shows the shortage?
The agenda. The agenda.
Right, which,
And
yeah,
also
Agenda
what-
that's advertised and
what
posted
Tyler read.
outside. It says buildable area.
I know.
So that's what I'm looking at.
We'll be happy to correct the legal notice to provide for compliance in that area, but non-compliance with lot count calculation.
Is it possible to create the flag lot with the existing asphalt driveway? Because I'm looking at this other plan that you've given us which shows in blue that it's wetland area or flood zone or a freshwater wetland. So even though on your theoretical map, you're showing a flag lot, but 50 years from now, you will not be able to build that driveway on that flag lot. Okay. You have the
Right now,
thing,
they can't build it on the flag lot.
okay, I'm just saying, because right now but you're showing it in one of the plans, a flag lot. Okay? Correct, you're showing a flag lot, okay? Correct. And you're showing that the entrance to that location is gonna be, in order to avoid the freshwater wetland area, you're gonna go build the driveway over somebody else's property and go from the back of their house into the back house. So why don't you do it right now, and you don't have to have that issue come up 50 years from now?
We certainly,
They're trying to create a flag lot, but the pole of the flag lot is not usable land, because
Correct,
it's
exactly,
wetland,
exactly. So what I'm saying is, I need to sort of, plan on somebody, a second owner, so the burden then comes on the second owner to become aware of it, that they can't, because looking at this, if I was buying it without having a professional guiding me through, I would say, hey, I have a flag lot, I can always build a driveway through that flag lot. In reality, that area can never be built. But again, when you're showing it, you're presenting it, it looks like a flag lot to any normal person that they can build a driveway over it.
Right, so a driveway could not be constructed without going before the highway department, or in this case, they'd have to go to the state, because it's a state road. You can't go through a wetland, you'd have to have.
So why are you
plans.
showing the flag lot then? Why are you even showing it?
Because we were instructed by the town planner, during our review of this project, to show the minimum setbacks for, the minimum frontage for the lot, so that we could make these code compliant lots. And she suggested that we propose a 50-foot, well, she suggested an easement. We elected for 50 feet, so in the event that they do want to put their own driveway, they have area to do so, that's not through the wetland.
I'm not,
But
This
didn't,
is how
I
we've
don't want
been-
you to be misrepresenting what the planner said. I think the planner said this is not really doable.
That was not what was represented to us.
Okay.
my
that's-
concern is now you go right through the middle of that property. Again, at some point, different people are gonna own this, one way or the other.
I mean,
Now
the
you've
easement would be
taken the
part of
whole
your
back
deed,
prop-
so you'd
excuse
have
me.
to know about it.
Excuse me. Now you've taken a 50-foot easement right through the
Split their
usable,
property.
biggest chunk of their usable property. So when they come in front of the zoning board 20 years from now and they want to put a swimming pool in or an accessory structure or anything, they're going to end up building on your easement? I mean, and that's why I asked before. They suggested that it go through the middle of the property. And again, I'm not sure how much of that's before us, other than, I guess we also have to decide whether, you can get the area variance is practical under these two lots. So
Right.
maybe we're both looking at the same thing, and because it's different people, we're coming up with slightly different answers. I don't know. As the chairperson says, I understand what you're saying. I'm not trying to suggest you're disingenuous at all. But this was a question that I asked that Mr. Onson mentioned before. Why isn't the pole on the other side? Can that be done and avoid the easement and everything? They say you have to present that somehow. They could, at some point, your pole's on the other side. If they want it, they could bring their driveway around from the other side of that commercial lot or whatever, if they ever wanted to do that. It doesn't seem practical to me to have that front lot chewed up so much that it may not be usable in the future if somebody else wants to use it.
Well, it's a
While they're
pre-
there and they want to rent it out or something, and they're just renters, they may not care. But if it gets sold at some point, they're not having much of a piece of property.
Well, it's a predated residential use on a major thoroughfare, and the person that bears to lose value would be my client. They're the owners. This is the best access into the property, and while it may, in some part, diminish the value, it won't devalue it completely. It's a it's a right-of-way through the property to access a residential, and it is a commercial thoroughfare. Route 52 is a commercial thoroughfare, and I think that the person that would bear the diminution, if there is a diminution, is my client who stands here before you today.
Until those owners that are in the future want to put up a swimming pool or something, and there's no room, and they're asking us for a variance or something.
But buyer beware, there's a driveway through it.
Well, but we
We
can,
can talk
see,
what
you know how many
ifs
times we've
until
been
we go
said
No,
that?
why are you
We're
laughing
facing
at
a
me?
problem.
I don't know
Because it
what I
becomes our
said
headache.
that
It becomes
was
the
human.
town's headache if we allow this to happen. That's why we're questioning it, and just to keep saying it doesn't, it's not a concern at this point, it's obviously a concern of the zoning board here.
Well, I
The
wasn't at the
backlot
meeting.
front on any road? Would the newly created, the proposed backlot, would that front on any road at all?
Only through the wetland.
Only- So no part of that actual lot, of that newly created lot would touch the road? So do we need a variance for that too?
It does touch.
It touches it through the wetlands.
Is
So
that enough?
it's not
Is that enough
usable
frontage?
area.
Is that enough?
That is enough frontage per your code.
Okay.
You require 75
Alright.
feet, we have 76.
Only at its,
Only in theory.
Okay.
Only in theory.
Okay.
Theory and practicality is, I guess, what we're getting into here.
all right, I certainly am not prepared to move this forward. I think I need more guidance from the planner, because I know she's looked at this before. Obviously, she had issues, planning board had issues, so I think we have to do our due diligence before we set this for a public hearing, and we need to find out more information, so.
The planning board had issues with the previous application. I don't think they've seen, or they've had issues with this.
Okay.
And could I ask you, you said you want clarification from the planner?
Because it was given to us as buildable area. So again, I need to, and the interpretation that I was given was that you have less than than half of the buildable area that's required.
And if that's
So-
inaccurate, and in fact, the only deficiency we have is the lot count calculation, and you want an explanation. I wasn't at the meeting with the town planner, but I know that Inside Engineering was there, and I'm sure they're effectively recounting what she had suggested. I'm certain of that, just based on the conversations I've had with Insight. What is it that we can give to you that would make you more comfortable with the configuration?
I guess my first question would be, again, have you gone to the Watershed Inspector General, and have you reviewed this lot with them?
We don't.
I don't think
I
we
don't know
have.
that you have to, I'm asking the question.
No,
You're
we
in the
haven't.
watershed, so, if you're going to be impacting and developing in the watershed, sometimes you need their approval,
In this case, we do not.
okay? So I'm not sure that there's anything else you can give us. I believe this board needs consultation and needs more information from the town planner.
Is it fair to say that the sole issue you have is access to the residential lot? Is that fair?
I don't know. Personally, I don't know.
I don't know how to proceed.
Two
according-
parts, well, from my, not speaking for the board, just speaking for
No, just for
myself.
yourself.
I don't want to see a lot that you're asking to be created to be so piecemeal.
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be done that way.
Piecemeal.
Well, you're taking a lot that you say is the front lot, which is whatever, 3 acres and something, and you're breaking it up with an easement into 2 additional lots. It's not really one lot. Your easement bisects it.
It's 2 lots.
It doesn't
Yes, they
prohibit-
can't do anything to affect the easement. They
Yes, it
cannot
would
do anything, so they
depend
can't
on
put
the
a pool
language
up
of
on
the
it. They
easement
can't
that was
do-
provided
please,
with the
ma'am.
deed.
Well, you're both talking at the same time.
Yes, I was talking. So they cannot build in that easement, they cannot do anything to obstruct that easement in the future if it's a different owner. So you're asking me what my concerns are, I'm telling you, that bothers me. That's not pretending a good and viable use in the future when somebody else wants to own it, and they have to come to the town and say, well, what can I do? I want to make this house bigger. I want to use the lot. I want a garage like they have in the back. I want a swimming pool. I want these things. So that's a concern of mine. And my question then is, if you're looking at from the road to the left, where the driveways are now, is there 75 feet of frontage there? Or are you telling me you can't meet the frontage requirement on that side?
I'm not telling you that.
Do you have, well, I'm
Have-
asking you, can you
we
look
can-
at your thing now? Do you have 75 feet there?
Why can't we put the pole,
On the
On
other
the
side.
other side, I said where
Yeah.
the driveway is now. Do you have 75?
existing driveway is right there.
Is there?
so
I
is
asked
there
you a question.
75 feet there?
There is 54.03 feet.
Plus you have the other thing, that's just that one line, right? 54 feet?
Correct.
So, you know, if you have 75 feet there. or
But
not?
then you have the angled portion. So what's the length of the angled portion?
That's 29.48 feet.
So 54 and 29, you have the 75 feet there.
So maybe, it may be more feasible, I don't know. You put the.
pole on that side.
side. They have an easement generally to use that as a common driveway
Listen
to
to
begin
him,
with.
please.
Is there enough width to do a pole on that side?
That's what they need to, that's what they probably need to show us, whether there is or
I'd
is
much
not.
rather give a side yard variance than to have. it
Have
broken
a
up.
shared
I don't-
driveway in the pole, as most lots would do.
Yeah. There's other possibilities here. I'm not
Or
grasping.
they're not, and we're not being told why not.
Yes, I don't know. I'm not grasping the logic of what's being presented.
So you want to, just for an alternative is what I'm hearing. You want to see an alternative where this flag is over here?
Yes.
The pole is on that side.
Correct. All the way
The
back.
driveway is on that side, yes.
All the way back.
But that's, so there's no required 50-foot easement across the middle of the property in the front.
I have been instructed by the town planner, and she can comment on this as well, that we had to have 50 feet through here minimum. We
So-
don't have 47.
That's what the issue is.
Okay.
You don't have the minimum for the flag, for the pole, I mean. That's what we needed to understand.
Okay, it does say.
Oh, it does say
47
that
there.
here, yep.
Logistically, it makes more sense to put the shared driveway as a defined shared driveway as the pole on the other side, and keep this lot, this portion on this side as part of the lot in the front, so you don't need that easement cutting across somebody's backyard.
Or you put the easement on that side. Makes more sense to me, but I don't understand it.
I was wondering, can we get a variance for 3 foot for that, instead of 50 foot? Can we go to 47 feet and still give them
Is
3
that
foot
something that
variance?
we can give a variance on?
I have to check back. I think there are a bunch of questions that we might as well talk with the planner and
That's a
then.
dimensional shortage for which you can get a variance.
Well, let's have our town attorney tell us that.
That would be fine.
So I think, I'll speak with the planner, and I think we'll review the code, because I know there's some issues that were brought up. And I think maybe I'll write a memo for the next meeting.
Okay.
Advise. And I have a question, too. Have you thought about speaking to your neighbor next door, maybe doing a lot line adjustment, where you would maybe purchase a little part of their property, and then it maybe it would make it a little easier for the
And then
pole?
you eliminate the need for the 3-foot variance, too.
That's Stormville Mountain Road.
Is that,
There's also a brook right here.
Yes.
So
Oh.
okay,
the area.
okay.
Literally right.
So, well, you could still, you can still do a lot line realignment to get more land to give you the 50 feet, it's just not a buildable area. So it would eliminate, it would get you the 50-foot wide pole, and we're not talking about a lot of land, like we said, 3 feet. But,
That turns into a whole.
well, it
a
would
separate
require planning
process.
board approval, yes.
So if you have to subdivide anyway, though, I mean,
Right.
can you do that and the lot line adjustment all in one shot?
Assuming,
We're just,
assuming the
talking it out
neighbor
now.
is interested
Right,
in
assuming
doing that.
assuming the neighbor's interested.
Assuming the neighbor doesn't have a mortgage on his property
Right.
for which you need a release.
Right, no,
That-
I mean, we're talking it out now, too, this is our first.
We have to, you're asking for a variance, we got to explore, are there options that we can get around without needing the variance?
Yeah, on the other side, as we have mentioned, I see trees on your plan. I don't see a stream or a brook. Maybe it's there. There is a pond in the back, but adjacent that existing house, I see a bunch of trees.
He's looking at an aerial.
When you look at this, the trees are gonna hide it, probably. It says drainage swale.
Oh,
So
okay,
probably
okay.
This year with all the rain, it's probably wrong.
Okay, so drainage, okay, fine.
See,
No
it
problem.
says the brook right here on this
Yeah, it
plan.
says drainage swale on the plan.
And it comes down in and through, and this comes right into and under 52 as
Well, it
it
says
is.
brook there, up on the
That's
top, it
Okay.
says
Yeah.
brook.
Okay.
I believe there's an existing drainage easement here as well that would run over this.
I have, in the past, received variances for for frontage on poles. May I share with you some cases on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Again, I mean, I understand your arguments, that's not the issue. I'm not seeing the logic of the way it's set up, and as the chair asked, or stated, we will
Well,
have some
it
consultation.
strikes me, sir, that we will go to the planner, and we will seek to put some alternatives that you find more in keeping with the development here in East Fishkill. And if it's not feasible, we'll explain to you why it's not feasible through the planner's comments.
That would be helpful. All right,
Okay, great, thank you.
so we'll
Thank you.
see you again next month.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you. Second, all in favor?
Aye.